least right here. That means it's time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions with your host, the ever wonderful and effervescent Lisa Epler. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning, Pete. Good morning, everybody. Wow, what an opening. You're just full of energy this morning.
I'm full of something.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll get the technicals out of the way. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a hypnotherapist and a self-empowerment coach. You can reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, lisaschangingperceptions@gmail. You can call or text at 262-573-7055 or always through 216thenet.com. You can send a message through there and they will always get it to me. I do take questions. If you just have a question, I can answer a question via email. I can answer it over the air. Send in what you like. Don't be shy. I do find a lot of people when I meet them in person and I happen to run into them, they kind of real nonchalantly and shyly ask me kind of a question or curiosity. And I am always welcome and happy to answer. So I welcome them always. Don't be afraid to. If you have a question, at some point, if there's enough of them, I'll do call-ins on the air. Right now is a trying time around the world. So people are struggling and I have understanding of that. I don't want anybody to ever be too shy or too embarrassed or think that their question is stupid. No question is stupid if you need it answered.
No. Not at all.
Everybody feel free. And don't we have a wonderful sponsor we need to take care of?
We do, as a matter of fact. The Bremer Team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, bremerteam.com. You can reach Dawn Bremer, her very own self, at 847-456-6334 for all your real estate needs. They bring families home. Bremer Team, Keller Williams, North Shore West.
And I have to say, I missed Thursday night's show. I missed doing it. That was a disappointment. So for those who are following, we just had to kind of postpone a week, but it is coming back. We will be back. I don't know how we're going to do that with the Eves. We'll have to talk about it.
Well, we have pretty much, I think, because Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, we have all of the shows that are generally throughout next week live, with the exception right now, so far as I know, of Uncle Pete in the Morning on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday each week. Every other show is taking a holiday.
Okay.
So
we'll be back
fine.
in 2 weeks.
So yeah, we'll be back the second week. I guess the second Thursday, right? For What If, the second Thursday in January. So.
And we're going to announce our new fun thing we're going to try then for the new year. What a perfect time.
And I have some things to show you because we have prizes for that.
We are going to do a contest. So we're going to prepare everybody. We're going to do trivia on What If. 1 day a month. Isn't that what we talked about? 1 day a month?
Yeah,
do it. We're going to do a trivia contest, a trivia game. And we will be asking random questions from shows throughout the month. And whoever answers the most questions correctly, there will actually be prizes because we're a professional organization here.
That's true. With connections.
Yes.
And because we do have prizes for that have been donated by an area organization. And we will let you know who that is when people begin winning them.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So just everybody keep that in mind, something to look forward to with the new year. Actually good timing. Something to look forward to with the new year. Once a month, we're going to be doing that on What If, and I look forward to it. So today I had put out for questions. That's why I brought in. Everybody quit being afraid to ask questions. And I have gotten a couple questions, which I'll address. And then what normally happens, and I follow it, is that I end up during the week with experiences and conversations and what have you that tell me what it is I need to talk about, which is why we are doing the topic, can a zebra change its stripes? So we're going to get to that in a minute. But first off, I'm going to answer the couple questions that I have. One of them was, can a past life affect us currently? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've even had, when Mary was on the show, she even discussed how a past life had affected her.
Yeah.
Yes, it can. And it got continually brought up because, as a matter of fact, I thank you, Lori, who colored my hair yesterday. And we were talking, and she had talked about a past life dream she had, and she knew that that's what it was, and went on and on and on. And I looked at her after she told it, and I won't share her business on the air, and I said, "Are you claustrophobic?" And she went, "Oh, Oh my gosh. I was just asking my husband the other day, I wonder why I'm claustrophobic. I don't have any reason to be claustrophobic. But when she had explained this whole thing to me, I was like, okay, I can see where that would have carried in. So the answer to the question is, can past lives really affect us in this life? Yes, absolutely. I see it all the time in my work, in my life, in my own personal life. I've talked about that I actually ridded myself of a physical ailment once I acknowledged that it was not meant for this time. So yes, it can is the answer to that. Do you have to have me to have a past life experience or to experience it? Absolutely not. I have told people all the time, I'm just a tool. I know how to do certain things and I can assist people with certain things, but I'm just a tool in life.
That almost sounded bad. I'm just a tool.
Well, sometimes I feel that way too.
But at least you didn't say I'm such a tool. So
I saved myself there.
You saved yourself there.
Can I assist people with past life regressions? Absolutely. Do you need me to do that? Absolutely not. It's a matter of practice and understanding and getting yourself into that deep meditated state. If you want to do it in that way. Hers came through a dream. I did mine through my past life regression through hypnosis. Yes, you can do multiples of them because my belief and my life experience would say that we have had multiples of them. But the answer to that question that was brought up is yes. Wholeheartedly with every aspect of me, yes.
And I'll agree with that because there are things floating around in my head that are actual memories that I have not experienced in this lifetime.
Right.
It's not a dream. It's not something I saw in a movie. It's not, some kind of weird combobulation of TV shows and other memories mixed together. They're very definite, actual memories. They're fairly brief. They're not expansive. They're like
little clips.
Yeah, right. A little clip, a little flash of a moment in time, and a feeling and an emotion is connected with them, which is why one reason why I know it's definitely a memory, because that's how when I recall
your attachment
something,
to it, right?
My attachment to memories usually almost always involve emotion of some sort. Things that have seeded themselves.
Well, and I've talked about it. We talked about it on the air before too, because I know my late husband used to talk about remembering standing at the base of the Statue of Liberty with the water and the waves and standing at the base, looking out. And he said he remembered being like between 8 and 10 years old, somewhere in that age range doing that, but he had never been to New York. But he could specifically, like it had happened, remember standing there. So yes, those things can come up. And yes, I can help with those. I actually enjoy doing past life regression hypnosis just because it's so eye-opening for so many people. And it's such an experience. I don't know, maybe I can do it on the air one day just to show people how it works. I'll have to see if I can find another friend willing to throw themselves under the bus on the air.
Find somebody who's willing to do that. I don't think that will be me.
I'll have to see if I can find them.
I have a suspicion of about 4, and neither one of them would be appropriate for the air.
I'll have to see.
I don't think because of what the flashes are.
I'll have to see if I can get somebody like poor Anita last week. And by the way, thank you all who contacted me about having Anita on the air. And Anita is a loyal listener, so she'll be hearing this too, who said what a wonderful experience it was. And thank you for her sacrifice, for being the sacrificial lamb to experience. A couple people even said, oh my gosh, I was getting hypnotized while you were on there. Like I was like going under as I was listening to you. And I was like, oh, that's great.
They just relaxed right into the whole thing. But she did such a remarkable job of being open and willing to share that last week.
And that's why I had called her and said, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. I just need to know if you trust me enough to do it. It wasn't that I wanted to torture her and torment her on the air. It was because I wanted the authenticity of.
And I don't think you did. I don't think.
No, she loved it.
And I'm glad she did too. And she's just so nice.
She is. She's genuinely the good person. When you guys have heard me in the past say, I have this friend that I believe her mission in life is just to be the lighthouse for the world. She is one of them. She's going to come on and tell her story at some point, and it will be very interesting. But I'm going to do when she decides she has time As soon as she tells me she has a Sunday to come again, we're going to do it. And it's going to actually be based on judgment. And she's a really great example of judgment in this world and in our climate. And I think it'll be a good show. So anyway, just wanted to say thank you to everybody and let Anita know as well, even though I've talked to her, but let Anita know on the air as well that many people reached out to say how amazing she was for being here.
Yeah.
And how brave she was for being my sacrificial lamb and being so open and vulnerable to really allowing the true experience to come forth. So
it really was.
I wanted it to be authentic because a client who walks in the office doesn't know what I'm going to do or doesn't know what to expect. So they have that same anxiety. Now, her anxiety probably wasn't quite as high as a client's might be because she does know me and because she did trust me to do it. So a client's is probably even one more level up than that. But I wanted people to experience that authenticity of it is an emotional experience. You do hit and see things that you hadn't realized or hadn't seen before. And it's always beneficial to allow that open. With her, you notice that as soon as I said, let's take down the walls around the heart that are blocking these things, let's just shatter them. You're safe now. Just that alone, caused the emotional effect that was coming. And that is true for so many people, which is part of what's kind of brought up the topic today. The conversations that I've run into over the week have been interesting. And I always believe that they're a little bit spirit guided when they're repetitive. And I called it, can a zebra change its stripes? Because that is a statement that I hear many people make when they're dismissing somebody or dismissing someone's value. I hear the statement, a zebra can't change his stripes. A zebra never changes his stripes. And I truly, genuinely can't stand that statement. But I believe that it's a statement that's misconstrued. And that's why I thought, okay, well, since it's changing perceptions, I'm going to try and change people's perceptions of that statement because that statement makes it crazy.
Well, see, and I think some people take that statement as literal because no, a zebra, the animal, cannot change the biologically physical attributes of its stripe pattern. And a zebra's stripe pattern is as unique as our fingerprints. So no, it cannot.
But people use that as that,
but they use it
as somebody's personality
traits or behavior patterns. That's why that bothers me.
Exactly.
Because okay, now if you're going to say that about all my freckles and my actual literal biological skin and eye color thing, you can hide them, you can cover them, we can put on clothes.
That's exactly what the point I'm going to make.
But but
I hear people say that to people who struggle with anger or people who struggle with addiction, people who continually react in the same way because somebody shows a repeated pattern or a repeated reaction, that's just how they're always going to be. Okay, maybe, but you know what? That will be up to them. So I want to turn the perception of, can a zebra change its stripes? And I'm going to say, no, it absolutely can't. But what if the zebra is your heart and spirit? Because we are not born with anger. We are not born with racism. We are not born with trauma. We are not born with poor coping skills, bad eating habits.
No.
We are not born with addictions. We are not born with these things in our spirit, in our heart. So can a zebra change its stripes? What if we say absolutely not? But your stripes are your heart and your spirit. So what that would mean is what if, we'll do a little what if.
No.
What if that were to be true? And what's changed is the camouflage, the costume, the ways that we've protected and camouflaged ourselves from certain events, certain emotions, certain things in our lives. What if we've put on things to cover that up, to pad it, whether it be weight, whether it be clothing, whether it be anger, whether it be whatever it is? What if that's all of our camouflage? And what needs to happen is we need to feel free to show our stripes and remove the camouflage. So what if by dismissing people and labeling them and determining and telling them, I've heard counselors say that statement, telling them a zebra cannot change his stripes. You're telling them never are they ever safe to be.
And see, I've also heard people say in that same vein, once a adjective, always a adjective.
Correct.
And
to me, that's an easy dismissal so that we don't have to affect our own compassion.
Yeah, because it's the biggest thing for me is if someone real high up there, loyalty right behind that, trust. If someone breaks those aspects of a connection for me, we're done.
Right. And that's okay. Because I'm not saying that we have to stay in toxic situations, that we have to be harmed by somebody who's making poor choices, that we have to be those things.
I mean, like, I'm a one and done kind of guy. Just
that's your personal experience.
Yeah. And it is based on that. It really is.
Do you have to be a one and done kind of guy? No, you don't.
I'm thinking.
Absolutely not. Maybe that's part of your camouflage, because you're not going to get taken. You're not going to fall victim twice.
That definitely, someone's done this to me before. I'm not giving you a chance to do that again.
And you have that. And that's actually a great point, because you have the personal right to make that decision, but that decision is for you. So here would be the thing. What if that decision caused somebody emotional hurt and regret to the level that they changed? Or what if you missed someone enough, or you rethought it and maybe saw your side of a situation, your role, your part in that situation, and realized, I might have sucked a little bit there too. Maybe I could see why they felt like they had to lie to me because of how I was viewing it, or whatever the situation may be. Maybe you saw that and you rethought it. And then maybe you said, you know what, in this case, I'm going to go try and make amends. Did you not just change your stripes, your everything?
Well, and that's a big part of why, a good, what is it now? A good 9-10 years ago, I made a very conscious choice to look myself in the mirror and go, dude, what do you really want out of your experience with people?
Right.
And it sucked, because I had to take a good hard look and say, yeah, this was probably me, not them. And this was probably, you know what? This was, no more probably about it. This was definitely me, not them, kind of a thing.
Right. And
decide that, I want to be a much kinder, more grateful, more thankful person.
So did you not change your stripes?
I changed my, on
the theory, meaning we're gonna go with that, because
I did, because
but you removed that layer of protective coating.
Yeah, I removed that layer, and it took. I mean, it has taken and that was not a simple. It didn't just happen.
And they, and it kind of goes with, there's the statement of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
And yes, there are those people out there, absolutely. But what if there's a sheep in wolf's clothing?
Yeah.
And what if they had to put on their wolf's clothing because they were tired of being attacked, and they were tired of feeling victim, and they were tired of looking at appearing as weak because they were a sheep? So there's so many different perspectives of it.
Yeah.
And I am not telling anybody to stay somewhere where they are harmed, stay somewhere where it's toxic. I'm not saying that it's your mission to forgive people who have treated you poorly, have done something that's against what your life experience has told you to do, or whatever it is. My thing that I'm learning and I'm seeing is that people are very locked into their belief is the only belief, and their experience is the only experience. I called a friend yesterday. If he listens, he's going to be mad. I'm going to get a phone call after this, but that's all right. And I had actually called about something, had nothing to do with this, but this is how it works sometimes, where spirit will keep putting situations in front of me to go, address this.
Yeah.
And I had actually called with a car question, because they're a car person and I am not a car person. And somehow it evolved into this whole conversation. And I said, it got involved in politics, which if you knew this person, that is a given. And you run from that topic with this person at all points possible, but I was unable to escape the conversation. And I just made the comment because I am very internally excited about the conjunction of the planets tomorrow, creating the Star of Bethlehem. I am very, very excited in my core to it. I can't tell you why. I can just tell you that there's something very exciting about it. So we were talking, and they were talking about politics and everything wrong, and we don't even need to get on that on the show, nor will I. And I said, well, that's okay, because I think Spirit's going to step in and give us a hand or something, because I'm very excited about the Star of Bethlehem. Very excited. And what was interesting is his immediate concept was God's going to step in and snap his fingers and make everything better. And then I got this whole big, long-winded thing about how you will never convince me that there's a God, and you will never convince me that God would allow these things, in this whole big, long thing. And I'm just sitting there. And they're like, see, I told you you'll never convince me. And I said, okay. And they said, well, I'm just letting you know you'll never convince me. I said, no, well, what you've done is told me that everything I believe is not true, because many times they said, I know what you think, but that's not true. And they were on and on and on. And I said, and what I've discovered is you just spent a whole lot of energy trying to protect yourself from me voicing my view that I have zero desire to do. You can believe and feel whatever it is you believe and feel. But it's kind of interesting to me how much energy you've just put into deflecting anything that contradicts what that is. And I wasn't angry. I was a little poked, but that's me when it comes to this topic, because I've been chastised about the spirit connection and things. So there's a little bit of poking, but not nearly what it used to be. And it was just a really interesting conversation, because before I even put an opinion out, I didn't voice my opinion. It was this instant wall of deflection about all of these things.
Right.
And I thought that's interesting. And I really did say, well, it's really interesting how much energy you put in this. I hadn't planned on trying to change your mind. Well, and there's no part of me that feels that desire.
And when you describe that to me, what I'm hearing is someone who, when they keep saying, there's no way you're going to convince me. You can't
Somebody begging you to convince them.
Yes, that's what
absolutely.
I hear. They're actually putting out, please do, because I can't take this in. Please convince me.
And
there's no way you're going to, but please.
That's a beautiful part of my point.
And that
exactly. And that's what I hear too. And I just didn't have the energy to do it.
And quite often, I mean, I never. All right. I'm not. I
so
don't.
What if the person who is angry stays angry? And we've talked again. My belief is anger is very hurt. What if the person who is angry and venting out back to the world just needs someone to look at them and say, I am so sorry for all the things that have ever hurt you and caused this much pain? What if that's all you said? What if you didn't reflect their anger back at them? What if you just accepted it? Now, does it mean, again, do you have to stay toxic, harmed? Absolutely not. And is it your responsibility to rip the costume off of the zebra? In no way, shape, or form, it is not your responsibility. But as a human being, or a spirit in a human body, or whatever term you want to put into it, my personal belief is, and it's my responsibility to be the example of what can be. Am I always? Oh, no. Oh, no. I can be.
Do not try this at home.
Right. Am I always? No, I am not. I have a temper, and I have a mouth, and I am very sarcastic and quick-witted. When I was getting my hair colored yesterday, she was laughing because somebody had said something rude to her. It was very rude. And I go, oh my gosh, I would have responded with this. And she goes, see, I always need you walking with me because you have the best comebacks always. I'm like, I know, but they're really not always kind. And then I'm regretful. So no, I am not the picture of sainthood in any way, shape, or form. I do try to really take things into perspective and reflect. But here's the thing. I may run into the wolf in sheep's clothing. I may run into the sheep in wolf's clothing. In any case, what they do is not my responsibility. How I respond to it is my responsibility.
Right.
And so sometimes I have to choke down a little crow. And sometimes I have looked at people and said, I am so sorry for the pain that's ever been caused to you. And I am so sorry that it's caused this much to you. And you know what I've had? Not every time. Sometimes I've had an asshole yell back at me. That's the truth. And sometimes I've seen the biggest of men break down in tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen people shatter and crumble and begin to cry and let all that energy out. It's not that difficult to offer compassion and not hold responsibility for it. In other words, I can say to that person, I am so sorry for all the pain that's ever been caused to you, or all the people who hurt you that made you feel discarded. And then I can walk away. I'm not responsible to fix them. And that took me years to realize, years and years to realize. But it doesn't mean you can't offer it.
Well, and that's the thing, is because people often don't understand, and that's a perfect example of this. What you just offered is empathy.
Yes.
There is a huge difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yes.
And you don't have to sympathy. You then share in and take ownership of the emotion and the feelings. Empathy, you offer your understanding and acknowledgement and appreciation of what they're going through.
Yes. But
then you don't own that. You can simply, like you said, turn around and walk away.
Yes.
And part of, again, the reason, when I would encounter a wolf in sheep's clothing or sheep in wolf clothing, like, yeah, that's all right. No problem. Because I happen to be the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And guess what? Your limbs are going to start flying, and
right, your defensive mechanism went up right away. Right away, I'm going to go into defense.
Boom,
I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to go into defense, and I'm going to be more powerful. And my anger is going to oversee your anger.
Yeah,
and it's a protective mechanism. But you're a kind man. I mean, I know you personally. You're a kind man. You're a gentle man. You would help people, but in certain situations with certain energies and certain personality types, yourself says, "Whoa, okay." Now the spine is going straight, the arms are clenching, the fists are ready, and I'm ready to have a go at you. And that's because you have had experiences that have caused you to say, in these situations, I will become defensive. And we should protect ourselves in certain situations. There are certain things that we say, you know what? I've been there, done that, and I'm unwilling to go there again. But here's the thing. We do not have to attack. We do not have to degrade. We do not have to get a bunch of people behind us, defending us and saying that we're right in our actions. We have to become confident in ourselves to just say, you know what, been there, done that, not going to do it again. And I wish you peace, and walk away, and just walk away.
And that's something I've had to learn. Again, I'm going back nearly 10 years, and I still struggle with that sometimes. I'm much better at it now, and I'm also able to, as it's occurring, step back from myself, almost kind of like, here's Pete, and now I'm going to stand over here and say, okay, Pete, what do you really want to have happen out of this? And then slide back into Pete and go, okay, I think that I want to have this kind of result versus this kind. So again, realizing I've now got a choice of how to respond, and I'm responsible for that choice. And so I really like what you're talking about here.
Well, and in a conversation, because I have a little soft spot for disgruntled teenagers.
Yeah.
Which, again, talk about life changing. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have a soft spot for disgruntled teenagers, I'd be like, whatever. Have another cocktail, whatever's making you think crazy, because there's no way. And I really do have a soft spot for disgruntled teenagers. And the comment that was made was, wow, but you're getting them right at the age where there's barely time to change. The clay's about hardened, and once the clay's hardened, you can't remold it. And I was like, wow, okay. And I sat quiet, because I tend to, now just for the record again, I will take ownership of, I do not always sit quiet. But in this situation, I did. Sometimes it'll trigger me, and I'll be like, you want to have a go about this? Because I've got some knowledge and background to back me here. what was offensive to me and what I found offensive, because I was finding myself triggered, was, wait a minute. In a way, with that narrow conception, you're kind of insulting everything I believe in and everything I went back to college for at 50 and everything I believe in the people of and the heart of people and the spirit of people and the belief that people have opportunity. I believe that everyone on the planet, every flippin' person on the planet, here's the hard part. This is where people totally get triggered. Regardless of your past, has opportunity offered to remove a layer of the costume, or in some cases, be blessed and remove the whole costume. And so I don't think that age has to do with it. Now, the science people, our brain is developed by the time we're 25. That is true. That is a scientific fact. And that is part of what completely broke my heart and made me go on this discovery. Because I had a person in my life that could not get past their past. And I was like, there has to be a way to change this. Like, there's no way we hit 25 and we're just destined to be miserable forever if that's what we are in that moment. I don't believe that. There can't be. And so I went digging and researching and seminars and I mean, I was literally on this mission. And as with anything we hit on our life path, your own crap gets stirred up. Oh, yeah. Which is how I conquered my codependency issues and issues that I had from childhood and what have you. And they're still coming. They're still coming. You know, I just blew up a new one this week going, wow, thought I had that taken care of. I guess not. These things are still coming. And my comment and reply was only, wow, we're so far off on that belief system, because what people don't always realize is the majority of our decisions and the majority of our actions and the majority of our reactions are coming from a place we don't even realize. They are coming from the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
They are coming from where all those costumes were decided on and created and sewn and placed on. And our unconscious mind is 88% of our thinking.
Yeah.
So as I discovered all that, and again, that's why I got into hypnotherapy. Like, okay, you know what? People just need to be able to access that part of the brain. If we can access that part of the memory, if we can access that part of the mind, and we can do it in conditions that are safe and loving and non-judgmental, maybe they can rewire that thought process. And again, I, like most, even though I was 50, I, like most, when I'm going to save the world. This is it. This is my mission. I'm going to change the whole world. And then I got my ego and my pride smushed when I realized we still have to want to. It's no different. I can't make someone want to change. I can't make someone do the work. I can't make somebody make those choices. And so I had to fight with that. Like, I was almost going to quit. Like, this was stupid. Why did I do this? This was really stupid. What a waste of time and money. What have I done? And my ego and pride was really smushed, because I was really like, I have found the answer and I'm going to save the world. And my ego and pride had to get absolutely annihilated. And when my ego and pride got annihilated, I had to then self-reflect, because there's nothing left but me. There's nothing left but heart.
Yeah.
There's nothing left but truth. There's nothing left but vulnerability. And I had to then look at that. And what I realized was it's not my job to change the world. And it's not my job to make someone else choose to change. It is I'm going to cry. It is my job to offer the safe place with no judgment that has the tools to help you. But I am not responsible for the person's choice to do it.
No, not at all.
And it has been an eye-opening, heartbreaking thing, because there are people that you run into that you just want to go, listen to me. And you can't.
And see, I have gotten past I get, and Mary Catherine, who you know, will tell you that I have a heart. let me put it. I'll just share the way my mother shares it because she says it in a kinder way than Mary Catherine does. My mother says, I have a hard time suffering fools. And I do. That is true. And what it is really that I have a hard time with when I encounter people who, even if it's just in a moment, are doing something because they're not thinking, they're not looking, they're not paying attention, and it's about to impact me and my life and my situation at that moment. If what you are doing because of your inability to be aware of your surroundings at that moment is going to change or may have the potential to change my surroundings at that moment, I'm going to be greatly annoyed with you.
Mhm.
And I'm saying again in a kindest
What
way as I know
if?
how. Now,
Depending on the level of impact, obviously, but what if that was an opportunity for you to discover grace?
well, and that's what I have been learning.
Right.
And that is what I have been, you know what? It'll come up real quick and I can just let that go. I don't need it because, moment passed, my life didn't change, surroundings didn't change, only other for than that moment at that little tiny blip. But it's interesting when you recognize those things.
Right.
For me, it's interesting when I am able to recognize those things. The other thing you just talked about, insofar as being responsible for those people that
Right.
you just want to, I actually have not for as long as I can remember. And this even in a negative sense is I have felt only responsible for changing my world.
Right.
And when I say in a negative sense, that can come out in an extraordinarily selfish and self-involved way.
Well, but it depends because there's a perspective of that too. It depends
Yeah.
on what we view our world to be.
Oh,
If we view our world to be
here's
us,
what I mean by that.
our internal world.
What I know is of the selfish and self-involved way, when I know I am taking an action or causing a change that is either requiring the use of another person or will change their world in a detrimental way, and I didn't care.
Okay.
So that's why now go ahead with your thought though, because that was important.
Well,
Continue.
it's because I talked with a friend that does the spirit thing like I do. And we were talking about it this week because frankly, I was pissed because what had happened is that and again, this is just cycles that it goes through, is there's been a lot of things coming to me for other people to help other people. And I'm okay with that. And that's the thing is it's a hard thing to talk about because people will twist it and be like, oh, well, you're selfish. You have this gift. You're supposed to help people. Yeah, but I'm also a human who wants certain things. And I was getting so angry because it's like, wait a minute, where's my crumbs? Like, where's the bone? When am I going to get thrown the bone?
Right.
I help this person, that person, this person. And I'll be honest, I even at one time this week, and humbly I will say this without shame, I screamed in my car. I yell in my car. So you guys ever see me driving down the road and I'm talking and it appears to be to no one, I'm yelling at them. So I was driving down the road yelling and I'm like, I've had it. Are you trying to tell me that I shouldn't have raised good children and I shouldn't have had a good marriage and I shouldn't have made the good choices and I shouldn't have gone back to school and I shouldn't have done all these things that I thought was right to do, that I have to screw up really bad before you throw me a bone? And I was absolutely beside myself. And I called my friend who does what I do. And I was like, okay, can you please either help me come out of my own head or promise me when they institutionalize me that you will bedazzle my straitjacket? Because I still want the bling. But right now, I'm going to snap. I have had it. And interestingly enough, she and another friend of mine who do this had the same experience, thoughts, emotions, angers, and what have you this week. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting because we do have this solar eclipse. I love it when people say that stuff doesn't affect anything. It moves the oceans and the tides. What makes you think it won't affect you? You are water. Scientific for all of those who want the science. You are water. Okay. So we were talking about that, and she said to me something so eloquently that at the time I did not receive eloquently. She said, sometimes we're the pawn, sometimes we're the player. And I went, that sucks. And I don't like that statement because right now I want what I want and I am angry.
You pulled a Veruca.
Yeah.
A Veruca Salt moment.
But as I calmed down, I realized that's kind of the truth for all of us.
Yeah.
Because in the conversation I had yesterday with the person who was just adamant that I was not going to convince them that there was a God or a spirit or whatever, and I truly had zero desire to try to do that. They said, if that's true, then tell me why God would let all these bad things happen. And that's a very common argument for it. And my response to that is going to be simply this. My brain can't comprehend it all. My faith comprehends it all. And sometimes that's just believing in the fact that there's a purpose for all. And then, of course, that response got, science can't prove that. You can't see it. And I did not have this argument. I knew at that point we were confrontational. So my argument to that is, and I'll say it on the air, which I didn't say in the conversation, is you cannot see electricity. But when you plug into it, it works. You cannot see faith. But when you plug into it, it works. That's the only explanation I have. And here's what I learned. It's not my responsibility to convince you. I have always known that. It is not my responsibility to convince you. My part in being the pawn, if you want to put it that way, how she put it, is to be the example of what I believe in.
Now, here's the cool thing. What you just said, and I wish I had written this down. I was having a conversation a little earlier this week. We have discovered molecules, neutrons. I don't remember the exact thing. It's a the tiniest little fleck of existence that we can't see with the naked eye, but we now can see it through the use of technology and everything we have. We know this thing exists. We also know, and this teeny tiny little particle of existence, we also know that it can see us in a way, because when it is not being observed by a human, it exists in a different form. The moment a human puts eyes on it through the devices, it changes.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
And so we can't, I mean, you and I can't, so we didn't even know it existed. But because we see this behavior of this thing, we know that it knew of us, because it just doesn't do that like, oh, there's a thing, it's looking at us, here, change. But this thing is so monumentally vast in itself of being, and we are so remarkably tiny in our state of existence that we are aware of this thing up here. They are not aware of us down here until just now.
So is it possible that we learned, we grew, we discovered, and then with that, we learned there is something bigger and greater than we are? And again, this is not going to convince anybody to do that, but it's a concept of how we view things and how we change things. Because I have heard people who are very, and again, not getting into a political debate, do not ask me a political question, I will not have it. But I have heard them say, well, those people are just too stupid to know. Wow. What?
Okay, Felicia.
That's a thing. Like, okay, what an kind of arrogant statement, because their life experience showed them something. Their life experience makes them see something, as does yours, as does mine. And we all see them in a certain way. What if I have a woman, and I'm gonna throw a plug for her right now because I've dealt with her. Her name is Mary Sutherland. If you ever want to find her on Facebook, she is very into the extraterrestrials, red-haired giants, like all. She is just the researcher of it all. That is her thing, and people have said she's crazy. Well, it's really interesting. She's been called crazy for years. I've always said she's like Einstein crazy because some of these things that she comes up with, she can prove and show you things and like it makes sense. But it's outside the concept of the vast majority of the moment.
Right.
And what are we now discovering? They're starting to prove extraterrestrial life, these things that are happening. Was she crazy, or did she just maybe know and understand something that hadn't met the community yet? My point in it is it doesn't matter whether you believed her then or you believed her now or you never believe her. Our job is to have our experience, to be our experience. But when we close our mind to anything outside of what we personally feel that we can handle, we believe, or is our responsibility, we are creating this dysfunction in the world. So to say that spirit doesn't come down and save us, how can you say that? How do you know they're not? I even have my friend who does my hair, she can tap in, but she says, I don't. I push it away. I push it away. I push it away. And we were talking about it because she sees, and I talk to her a lot about what happens with me. And I said, okay, but you're telling me that you're feeling dissatisfied and you don't understand why things aren't happening that you feel should be happening, or why you're not moving in a direction different than you're moving in a direction. But yeah, you're telling me you're pushing it away. You're pushing away the connection. And she said, but I don't want to deal with that part. Bingo. And that doesn't just have to do with spirit connection. It has to do with life. I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to be different. I want these people to treat me different. I want these people to see me different. I want these people to think different. But I do not want to do the work to be the example of what I'm trying to tell you. I just want you to do that to make me more comfortable. That is not life.
I understand her response in a way, because I have seen things that are remarkably unpleasant.
Well, granted, that's with the spirit thing, but I'm talking about even people who aren't, even if that's not their belief, to say, I wish such and such would happen. I wish, and I'm going to use you, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig for a second.
Yeah.
To say, I wish my radio station would grow. I wish I get more advertising. I wish, this would be my life and this would be my thing. But by the way, the first person who pisses me off, that's the last I have with you. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not to make fun of you. It's the principle
but,
of life. I don't want to do the part that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do the part that makes me look at me. I don't want to do the part where I'm the example. I don't want to do the part that makes the blood and sweat and tears. But I want you to just bring it.
No, and you're 100% correct, because that's the part that I have to look at now and have become cognizant of.
Yes.
Of, am I not being forgiving enough? Or do I need to be, and do I need to adopt a more forgiving nature?
Well, and then you can get in.
Is this a thing within me that I have to work on?
And then there's the topic of forgiveness. And my concept of forgiveness is not necessarily the same. Many people believe that to forgive, you have to then allow somebody back into your life or allow a situation. For me, forgiveness is the understanding that they did the best they could with what they had in the moment, and it wasn't good for me, so I need to step away.
Yeah.
That is forgiveness. And here's the big thing. People think that in that definition of forgiveness that there is not love. That is not true. Because you know what? Some of the most toxic people in our life can be within our DNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
So forgiveness is walking away from it without carrying the burden of it. So walking away from it and just finding and understanding that that person did the best they could with what they had in the moment. And it's harmful to me. It's not good for me. It doesn't fit into who I am right now. And there's a key word. It does not fit into who I am right now. And it's harmful to me. So I'm going to have to step away from that. That's forgiveness, because you're not keeping a tie or an attachment to it. But the reason we tend to keep a tie or an attachment to it, which turns into anger, is that we keep this cord of disappointment. Because maybe that person really meant something to us, or that was important to us, or their value. Of course, there's disappointment. But the truth is, that's when we cut off the world by saying a zebra can never change his stripes, That's where that level of disappointment and pain comes from, because we believe that once we've done that, it will never be any different. And that's not true. How many
Right.
people have turned around and changed that you've become reacquainted with, or that there's a difference? And that societal belief is really causing a lot of, to me, emotional, mental, physical destruction, because a zebra can change their stripes. You may not see it.
No.
You may never know it. Or it may come riding back to you and you may notice the costume's gone. So by changing the stripes just may mean that they removed the costume that they protected themselves with. But to have forgiveness and to allow people to just be in a different place as you are right now. Because here's the deal. I have a secret I'm going to share with you.
Okay, everybody lean in.
Even if you're pissed off that they don't, they still won't. And all you are is pissed off.
And there you go.
Yeah, there we go. I've just solved the world's problems.
So
It's just a fact.
for those of you who enjoy being pissed off, now you know how you can do it on the regular. And for those of you who don't, well, now you know you got a choice.
Yes.
Being pissed off, being angry takes an enormous amount of energy.
Oh
It
my gosh,
really
it's
does.
draining.
Yeah.
It's draining. Because I have to say, it's funny, because I did admit humbly that I have been in my car more than once. I only said once, but I'm going to own that it's been more than once in the last week or so. Absolutely melting down, angry, and letting it all out, and letting my belief, letting spirit hear me, letting all these people hear me. And here's the thing. I was not punished or struck by lightning at all this week.
Well, there you go. Again.
If anything, it's kind of comical. I got more spirit. I had more visits. I had more intenseness.
You
of
got
it.
more.
Yeah.
You received more abundance. And Romit, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Romit Lamba says, change is necessary for life. It happens by itself. It's the nature's rule. Nothing is permanent, not the royals, not the poors, neither happiness nor sorrows, neither barriers nor the borders.
But what does not change naturally, and I respect that. That was a beautiful statement. Thank you. What does not change naturally, which is where we struggle, is our willingness to accept it.
Exactly.
That does not change naturally. That is an internal choice. And it is the kicking and screaming and refusal to accept those truths. That is the problem. Offering of opportunity is out there for everybody. We have to be open to it. We have to be able to pull our blinders off. We have to be able to say, here's a difficult one. Are you ready? Here's another. This is a hard one. Write it down. We have to be willing to accept that we might have believed wrong. Or in some cases that I've actually run into, everything we ever believed about it was wrong. And in that case, you're going to become very well acquainted with ego and pride.
And those are two things that are extremely difficult to get past.
Oh, they're
ego
tough.
And pride.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. And ego, again, those are the ego and pride. I am working on both of those. Ego is a little bit harder than pride for me, because pride actually really comes from things, for me, things I am absolutely most proud of are not actually, they're not things. They are relationships. They are people.
Exactly.
They are situations. They are not items.
Because the reason you would be most proud of them, all of the things you just listed are reflections of you.
Well, then I guess I'm pretty damn proud of myself.
Exactly. They are reflections of you. Our outer does reflect our inner. And this has been one of the things I've been yelling at Spirit about, going, wait a minute, this shit that's getting put in front of me, this is not a reflection of who I've been, what I've been, whatever. And that was when it was kind of deciphered of, but you made a choice in your path to allow in on purpose people who struggle with that conflict.
Yeah.
And that's when they said, I'm like, but I can't make these people change. And I really do have these conversations, hence bedazzle my jacket one day if need be. And they said, but it is not your responsibility to make them change. It is not your responsibility to force them through the door. It is your responsibility to offer a non-judgmental place of peace with the opportunity for it if they choose to open the door and walk through. And there was such a weight lifted with that. And then an internal battle of, but I want my way. And
Right.
I went these things. But it was such a weight lifted. And I thought, wow, if only more people in the world got to hear that, because I can't say it would be that, because in truth, I wasn't being that, or I wouldn't have been in my car screaming and having a fit to be told basically, once I calmed down, now take a chill.
Yeah.
And let's listen to us for a bit too. And it doesn't really, that sounds like how it comes as that kind of a conversation. Just for the record, that's not how it works. But if I sat and explained how it worked, it would take a long time. So basically they did let me know. And it was such a weight lifted to go, you know what? It's not my responsibility. And in that is the forgiveness kind of part going, you know what? They're just not there, or they're, they can't, or whatever it is. And that's not my responsibility. And then to be reminded of the beautiful people and things and situations that come into my life that I get to see that blessing with. And I'll share this, and I can't use names, as this week, it's quick. I had a spirit come into the school that I didn't know who it was, and I was kind of resistant to it. And long story short, because we're down to 3 minutes, I had asked somebody, was there a person here about like this? They're like, yeah. And they passed away a few years ago, and it was devastating. And I had no idea. I haven't been there that long. And anyway, in this, we ended up getting a hold of their wife, who had a child who's very young and was struggling and had been seeing things that mom wasn't sure about, blah, 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 blah. And so anyway, I had to go into somebody who's my superior and go, hey, just for the record, got this. And I was nervous, and I'm like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of throwing myself out there. And, in the long run, and I'll cry a little bit about this because it was beautiful, I ended up talking to the woman who got a hold of me. And the next day she sent me a letter. Oh, I'm going to cry. A letter that her little girl wrote to daddy. And it was the most beautiful thing, because all of a sudden this little girl had such peace.
Yeah.
And I thought, there you go, Lisa, hang on to those. Like when it's difficult, hang on to those. And I had another client that came back to me after I hadn't seen her for a year and a half, struggling. And it was so beautiful, because I looked at her and I said, wow, how amazingly you've done. And she said, what do you mean? And she said, I failed at this and I failed. I said, you failed at nothing. Because when you realized you went down the wrong path, you went back to the one that worked.
Yeah.
You said, hey, you know what? Wait a minute. This wasn't working. This was. I need to go back to what was. It's not the mistakes you make. It's what you do with them.
It's what you do with them.
Yes,
what
it's
you
the reality
learn
of,
from
hey,
them,
you know
and
what? I
then-
screwed
yeah.
this up, and I need to quit screwing this up. And the only way to quit screwing this up is to go that way. Switch directions, and opportunity is there and possible for everybody. So now I've overtalked. I want to get our sponsor in real quick again.
And actually, what we can do that very quickly. We have Bremer Team, the Keller Williams North Shore West, the Bremer Team, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. For all your real estate needs, they bring families home. Reach out to Dawn Bremer herself. Again, 847-456-6334, bremerteam.com. And Lisa, how can everybody reach out to you?
Call or text 262-573-7055. Lisa's Changing Perceptions at gmail.com, Lisa's Changing Perceptions.com. Of course, under Facebook, under Lisa's Changing Perceptions, or you can go to 216thenet.com, and people always get me those messages. In the meantime, be blessed. Enjoy your holidays. Maybe even consider attempting walking into your holidays this year, knowing not everyone's going to meet you where you are, and be okay with that, and find the peace within it as you go there. Have a good holiday. Have a good week. Enjoy your day.
And Sandy Gibson, just as we're exiting, says, thank you for this topic. I needed it. Sandy, that's wonderful. See you guys later.
Bye-bye. Have a good day, everyone.